This is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. Today is the anniversary of the Sikh massacre shooting down in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. This week has seen a spate of active shooters happening in everything from festivals to bars to shopping centers. I don't know what the answer is to mass shooting. You know, there's several people bring up several different things. People bring up gun control, but we need more gun control. Well, in Chicago this last weekend, there were 9 people murdered with gunfire. Chicago has one of the most restrictive gun laws in the country. You know, it's an old saying that when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. Well, that's the truth. Let's look at Mexico. Mexico has very strict gun laws, yet the Mexican cartels seem to have no problem picking up fully automatic weapons, semi-automatic weapons, pistols, rifles, whatever they need. So gun laws alone simply aren't going to solve the problem of the violence that's occurring. When I look at the people that commit these shootings, unfortunately, they're referred to in the newspaper, their pictures are put out there, their names are put out there, they're given a certain notoriety. Anything they write is referred to as a manifesto, as though it is some intellectual document that they made outlining their grievances against society. Instead of labeling them as manifestos, why don't they label them as the ramblings of a madman? Why don't they quit giving them notoriety by making them manifestos? Why don't they quit giving them notoriety by making them front page news, by showing their pictures, by exploring their families? You know, a lot of it has to do with mental health today. And I agree, our mental health system needs an overhaul. We need to start looking at the mental health of individuals. We also need to consider looking at the individuals themselves. You know, when it comes right down to it, if someone is a mass murderer and commits a mass shooting, they are, by very definition of their actions, mentally ill. No one who is sane would do such a thing. So to use mental illness as an excuse for their actions is simply a cheap out for them. I don't know what the answer is. I think I can think of some things that I would possibly enact if I were able to do so. If Keith ruled the world, this is what I would do. If someone was a mass shooter and it's definitive that they've committed the crime, that it's seen on tape, that there's video of them entering, such as the shooter at Walmart entering with an AK-47, proof positive that they're the person that did it, I'm not saying we deny them their right to due process, but I'm saying we give them a fair and speedy trial. That speedy trial should be within 2 weeks. We don't need a background investigation as to why they did it. To be honest with you, I don't give a rat's ass why they did it. The fact of the matter is they did it. Give them a fair trial within 2 weeks, presenting all the evidence, and if they're found guilty, give them the death penalty. And once again, when you give them the death penalty, make sure that that penalty is carried out in a fair and swift manner. I'm saying within a month. You know, there are opponents to the death penalty today who say, well, it does nothing to deter crime. And it really, when you look at it, they're probably right. It doesn't do anything to deter crime because so often now the death penalty isn't enacted until 18 or 20 years after the person is killed, and the notoriety of their crime has been forgotten. Their victims have been forgotten. Their families have been forgotten. I look at the case of Wesley Cook. Wesley Cook was a criminal in Philadelphia. Wesley Cook got stopped by an officer named Daniel Faulkner, and he basically executed Officer Faulkner. Now Wesley now goes by the name of Mumia Abu-Jamal, and he is the media darling of certain liberal factions. Mumia Abu-Jamal, Wesley Cook, has received retrial after retrial after retrial, and in each instance has been found guilty. He was originally sentenced to the death penalty. He's appealed it. He's been in prison for close to 40 years now, still appealing it. But they're saying, well, he's a positive example of what can happen because in these 40 years he's become an intellectual. He's become a scholar. Who cares? Officer Daniel Faulkner is dead because Wesley Cook, aka Mumia Abu-Jamal, murdered him. The proper sentence for Mumia Abu Jamal is death. It's something that needs to be carried out effective and immediately. Now, for those who say the death penalty has no deterrence, studies have shown that in states where the death penalty is enacted, that for approximately, I believe it's 72 hours, which isn't a big period of time, but for approximately 72 hours, the murder rate goes down in those states because people realize, geez, maybe I will get sentenced to death. Maybe something will happen to me. The problem with the death penalty in the United States of America is that it is not enacted quickly enough. Now I look at the federal government and they've decided to enact the death penalty and to reinstate it. And I look at the people that they're going to, that they chose to execute first. There's not a single one of them who should still be drawing air today. Most of them have been in prison for more than 10 years. They've wasted millions of taxpayers' dollars. They're dead to right guilty, but yet we keep paying for them. Again, this brings me back to the active shooter scenarios. What can be done about it? I don't know. In my second book, Morning Will Come, I wrote about an active shooter situation at a school. I wrote the toll that it takes on the community. I wrote about the emotional toll it takes on the officers that have to confront it. When an active shooting occurs in a community, it affects the whole community, whether you were involved in the shooting or whether you're just a member of that community. It makes you feel a little less safe when you go to church. It makes you feel a little less safe when you go to school. Active shooters, I don't know what to do about them. I know what I would do if Keith ruled the world. I would give them no notoriety. I would make sure that they are tried and executed swiftly. I would make sure that very little appears about them in the newspapers, that they don't get the notoriety that many of them strive for. I would have them buried in an unmarked grave in some field somewhere. Just give them nothing. Make sure that they are remembered as the losers that they truly are. Anybody who goes out and commits mass murder, whether it's with a firearm, whether it's with a knife, whether it's poison or whatever, is by my definition somebody with mental illness. Mental illness does not excuse the commission of a crime. Until next time, this is Keith Helwig from Cops Corrections Videos. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Stay safe and watch your back.